We're here at the Planetary Science Pavilion, where scientists and negotiators get together to discuss the best path for COP30. And I'm here with Marina Hirota, who is an Earth systems expert from Instituto Serrapilheira, and it's great to have Marina here. And this morning, she introduced a scientific document that was produced by a committee that the COP30 presidency commissioned to inform the negotiations with the best available science. So Marina, thank you for joining us. Can you tell me, what is this committee? How did it come together? And what the main findings are?
So the COP presidency put Thomas Krug in charge of the committee, and then she selected different people from different parts of Brazil and different parts of the world. And then we were 11 scientists talking about major scientific findings to really inform COP presidency about the state of the art of what we have to base the negotiations that we have ahead.
And what are the main findings in this document? So Ambassador Correa do Lago received this. What is he reading now?
So first of all, it's really important to keep the target of 1.5. Although we're very close to crossing it, it's a limit that can cause different implications for society and nature in general, and for governments consequently. So the first thing is 1.5, and then if we overshoot 1.5, what can happen? What are the impacts that we can expect? So the more we warm the planet, the more implications we have. So more heat waves, droughts, flooding, and disasters consequently. And then after that, we thought about, okay, what if we cross 1.5? What are the subsystems in the Earth system that can cross tipping points? And of course, it's really important to think about forests in general, especially the Amazon, but also the cryosphere, the ice caps we have in the world, the permafrost, so the oceans, different components of the Earth system. And then if we cross, what are the strategies we have to have in terms of adaptation to adapt or to change, and mitigation to change what we already emitted, to have like negative emissions? So what are the solutions?
Okay, so there's 1.5, there's the risk of overshooting, there are the tipping points. What else is in this document?
So also CDR strategies, how to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and very importantly, the financial mechanisms to all these modifications, to all these transformations we need. And one last thing that was really important is the vulnerable people and the justice that has to be applied in all of these components, like adaptation strategies, mitigation strategies, and also especially the adaptation strategies, the mitigation strategies, and the vulnerable people involved in all this transition. So the justice behind this.
Okay, so there's this scientific document outlining all these things, and the negotiators get this and read it. What are the top 3 things that they could do here at COP in order to avoid these risks and maximize the benefits of climate action?
I think one of the things we pose in the document is phasing out fossil fuels very importantly, and also speed up all the transformations like the renewables, the energy transformations we need. I think this is one. Second, and very, very, very important, is implementation. So how do we implement this in time? How do we take actions? How we need to act now, because we are already surpassing everything. And third, I think very importantly, is who is paying the bill in terms of the financial mechanisms, and also who is paying the bill in terms of vulnerability. What are the people more vulnerable and suffering more? And most of the times they are the ones who didn't emit anything. So how we handle all of these things. So I think these are things that have to be on the table based on what we talked in the committee.
Perfect. And so you talked about fossil fuel phase out. And a lot of times I think there's misunderstanding out there. People are like, oh, look at these crazy scientists and environmentalists saying we need to end fossil fuels now. Can you explain, does it need to happen now? what is what does the process of phasing out fossil fuels look like?
I think it depends on where you are, because the realities of different countries and within different countries are very different. So it's not that tomorrow, if in an ideal world, it would be great to phase out fossil fuels tomorrow, but it's not how it happens. We really need structure. We really need alternatives to overcome everything that fossil fuels now have in our lives. So it's not like this. It requires strategy, it requires planning, and it requires like funding to really make this become a reality, but in different places and throughout a process that can start now, but we have to start now.
And how long can this process last? Like it starts now, but do you need to do it in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? What's the timeline for phasing out fossil fuels in order to stay in the limits that science has identified as safer for us?
So what we know now is that in 5 to 10 years, we are going to reach 1.5, and 1.5 is a threshold. So it has to be fast. Ideally, if we start now, we could think about the next at least 10 years, depending on where you are, because some countries can do it faster, some countries will be slower, but we have to start it now anyways. But, you know, it depends on where you are, I guess.
And how could COP contribute to agreeing on what countries go fast and how this phase out happens?
I think it's really important because the negotiators will be here and they are the ones making the decision. So if science comes into the equation, they can think about everything we have, and they can negotiate thinking also in the economic factors, into all the realities of the countries. But I think it's important to bring people together, to convene people together in person to really talk about the solutions we need and the transformations we need.
And regarding the phase out, what is the choice negotiators have, right? So they're looking at, right, the scientific evidence, they're looking at the economy of their countries. What are the trade-offs they're considering, and what the science tells them needs to happen?
I think they have to make an accountability of development and everything that backs up stability in the planet. And I think it's a very, very hard decision to make. But we do have technologies now that really propose solutions in a way that we can continue developing, because I think that's important. But also taking into account everything that makes the planet stable. So we cannot forget this, otherwise loss and damage will be so higher that even the most developed country will have lots and lots and lots of problems and damage.
So it seems like phasing out fossil fuels is kind of like a must-have. It's about how we get there, but it needs to happen, and it needs to happen fast.
I think that's why this COP is so important. It has been important already, but we have a very small window of opportunity. So we really need to start taking actions in a very short period. That's why for me it's very critical to be here and very critical to participate in this time and within the negotiations happening at the moment.
Okay, so my final question. You talked about the panel offering these recommendations about carbon dioxide removal. What is carbon dioxide removal, and is it something we can really count on?
Carbon dioxide removal is another way of extracting, of removing CO2 from the atmosphere. So we have mitigation strategies or restoration, different strategies, but carbon dioxide removals are technologies that really do something that the mitigation strategies don't do. So it's a separate component in the carbon budget. And the thing is that we do have today strategies or technologies that can extract carbon, but they're very expensive. And even if when they are cheaper, they're not scalable. So we are not totally prepared yet to talk about this as a solution, but because it's expensive for a scalable solution, and it's cheap, but it's not scalable. So it's a trade-off between scalability and funding and funding. So it's really hard to rely on this at the moment, although people are working towards increasing the technology to really propose new solutions. But still, we are not there yet, and we have to work on this to become something feasible.
And could people say like, all right, so we can relax, we can let the fossil fuels burning for a little longer because at some point these technologies are going to be cheaper and they're going to take out all these gases from the atmosphere and store and everything is going to be okay. Is that something people can think about?
Not really, because there are different components of the emissions. So if we think about, okay, let's just relax, we are emitting already. Even though we are extracting, we are removing, we are emitting on the other side. So what we have to think about now is removing from all the sides possible. It's not feasible in terms of development, but we have to think about all these components. So it's not laying back and only waiting for everything to be technological and sustainable. We have to take actions individually and in different governance levels to really make it work. So we have to act together.
Perfect. And because time is of essence here at COP30, I will let Marina go and go tell all the negotiators of the science, of the messages we've heard here. There's no time to waste. Phasing out fossil fuels is a must. It's hard, but it needs to happen. It needs to happen in the next 10, 20 years. And also ending deforestation, and exploring all the possibilities and technologies to make sure that we keep the world as safe as possible, keep people that are impacted safer, protect the economies, and build a new future. So thank you very much, Marina, and off you go to help save the world. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, João.